Right then, welcome back to the Foxhole. Season 10, folks. The premiere coming at you. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan, coming to you. Foxtrotting in a Foxhole, Season 10, Episode 1, number 289 overall. Our 10th journey with this. I'd like to think that this thing has come a long ways. And it's going to continue to expand further, providing you with adventures and high fidelity content, or something like that. All right, as always, thank the folks at Rode and Zoom for providing wonderful tools for content creation, Pitchside for the drone stuff we've been doing in Aftershocks, which you should all be checking out. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll provide information for that here shortly. Drop a line, FTINFX@gmail.com, or call the hotline 541-525-0869. Love to hear from you. Love to have you come on. We're cooking up some things here. It's slowly coming together like everything else that happens in the Foxhole. Glad you bear with me. As we always say with Aftershocks, things are under construction. And check out the latest episode of Aftershocks. More of y'all need to start checking that platform out. Definitely, we don't double up, or we try not to. I mean, there are some things that are always going to overlap, since that's about sports and this is about sports. Okay. Well, enough of the babbling. Let's get Season 10 off and running. Looking to be better than the last. You know, I talked about this just after I say that I double up. The whole thing with John Beam, the coach at Laney College, I mentioned this with Aftershocks, and he'd been on Last Chance U. If you've ever checked out that series about junior college programs. Yeah, the more this goes on, the weirder this gets to me, because there's really been no explanation. Yeah. I don't know. I just wonder about all these coaches. I think I may have said this the other day. Probably not, though. I know I had a beef with my high school coach because I ran cross country and track at AHS. Go Falcons, Atwater High. And yeah, I had serious beef with him. Still kind of resent the guy in a lot of ways. But I'm not going to go smoke him. Not even close to that. I mean, I wouldn't even want to throw. I might say something snarky or salty. As I said, over and over. Interesting world we're living in. Right? The incident at the state trooper at the A&M game, and the bevy of opinions. Ryan Clark basically wanting to have the guy go in front of the high court. Johnny Manziel saying, yeah, that's how you protect the house. Show pride, A&M. Okay. Well, I already talked about that this week, so I don't want to go too deep there. What is up with my man AB? Antonio Brown. Yeah, that AD. AB. We don't want to get it confused with the glass man. You know, that whole attempted murder where they drag him back from Abu Dhabi or something like that? What a buzzkill that was for him. Prosecutors are talking, hey, if we convict this guy, we're going to ask up to 30 years. Now, it's not Indiana, and even Tyson got 6 years and did 3. So I don't think AB will do 30 years. But if some prosecutor wants to go buck wild and make an example of him as somebody who accumulated a lot of fame, fortune, and squandered it by being a jackass, you never know. Given the world full of retribution we're currently living in, we'll be keeping an eye on that. The whole Spitgate thing, I still don't get. with Jamar Chase. I said 500K. And luckily, like I said on Aftershocks, luckily Ramsey isn't a murderous type. You ever spit on somebody or pull somebody's hair, do certain things that trigger folks? Okay. How about W being on the Manning cast? At first I thought it kind of went unnoticed, but then again, in the world of the internet, nothing goes unnoticed. And it's not surprising that folks were quick to grab the double barrel shotgun and say, "Oh, what do you mean? The guy that caused 2 wars and got us into this mess?" And because W tried to crack a joke, and what do you expect? W talking about a Cowboys game, Manning cast, which I never watch, mind you. I've tried. It's like, give me Joe and Troy any day. Still, it's a fun thing. I'm not knocking it because the Mannings, America's first family. Sorry, Sanders clan, but somehow, along with the Kelseys, they can do no wrong. And there's ample opportunities to put a camera in front of them. It is what it is. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty funny. Very predictable, mind you. And of course, if Brother O was on the Manning cast, the wackos on the other side of the room would have their opinions. Some people I know wouldn't hesitate to go to their keyboard. Yeah. Wow. A lot going on here this week. The OJ estate signs off on a $58 million payout to the Goldmans. There's a lot to unpack here. Too much, really. I shouldn't be leaving this alone. But it just made me think, okay, OJ hit his money. You've all watched the documentaries and whatnot. And I'm wondering, man, you paid your lawyers off and did all these other things, and could still, after the fact, the estate says, okay, $58 million seems fair. So, translation, you got into a room and said, as morbid as this may sound, we could make money from OJ. We give you this, leave us alone, and how odious it may be, let us go about making some money off of the juice. It's the only way this makes sense to me at this point, that the Simpson estate is willing to cut Mr. Goldman and Kim and whoever else. Maybe the Browns aren't even mentioned in this, so yeah. Maybe the Browns don't even want any of this. I don't know. But I just think it's interesting at this point, basically 2 years after the man crossed the bridge, rainbow or not, depending on how you see it. Yeah. Okay. I keep not wanting to restate over and over again what an interesting world we are living in, but I can't help it. And I was thinking about John Beam, and I talked about this on Aftershocks when I sort of made this kind of parallel to Charlie Kirk. And then, of course, the Matrix being the Matrix, I see this thing 2 seconds later about Gracie Hunt. The Chief's hair, and a social media star in her own right, in her outfits, in her look. Of course, Brittany Mahomes and Tay-Tay, and I'll get to Tay-Tay in a second. Anyhow, she's kind of saying, I ain't down with the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show. I want kids and other people to have alternatives. So it sounds to me, and I don't want to put words in her mouth because the media will do that for you for clicks anyway. But it sounds like, give me some of that Turning Point halftime show. All this time I've been going back and forth. Was this kind of real or is this a bunch of talk? But apparently, when you see someone like Gracie Hunt saying, yeah, Bad Bunny, no, no, I don't think that's what I want. I don't think America wants it either. I'm going to do this turning point thing. Whew. Gonna be interesting once we get down that far, but I'm in no rush for that one because there's plenty of great NFL drama to enjoy way before we get to the game with the Roman numerals. How about this whole thing with Cam Scattaboo? Yeah. Oh, give any excuse for the sports talking heads to have something to chat about, be outraged, overreact to. As we know, the other half of the Bam Bam twins that took Gotham by storm this fall before Cam got injured. He was at Monday Night Raw, WWE, and it's scripted, but he was getting pretty physical, throwing somebody down and some other stuff that was going on. His teammate, right, who fell asleep, Abdul Carter, who's already made news wanting LT's number, and now he missed the walkthrough and fell asleep. I mean, it's just so much going on with this. But the fact that because the Giants, who made a coaching change, obviously, have so much hope in this guy, and people are like, what is he doing? This is a bad look. I'm angry. You see, I mean, Mad Dog Russo, act or not, he bleeds New York teams, right? So part of it's an act, but I think he was outraged. Lewis Riddick. I mean, some folks are just like, hey, he's not sure if he's going to play or not, but I don't think he's going to make the injury worse, right? There's no way he can help the team now. And even if he's around for film study, therapy, he doesn't happen today. Folks, go have a Diet Coke or a Coke Zero. Go look at your phone and scroll. Stop being so angry about everything. I'm with those folks, but I thought it was funny how outraged people were. Goes to show you the fortunes of the Giants and the Jets. A lot of frustration that the people that are connected to those fan bases have. I know, believe me, being DC, the East Coast is a whole different beast than us chilling out here on the West Coast. No question. All right, let's roll through this. I was talking about Gracie Hunt a second ago. Let's bring up Sizzle, because that's the real attraction. I mean, you're talking, man, these are some ladies that got carry some serious voltage when you talk about the Chiefs. I mean, you got CC22, Caitlin Clark is at the games. She grew up a fan. Obviously, Britt Mahomes, Gracie, and yet you got the biggest draw on the planet in T Sizzle. But T Sizzle's not feeling the love of the road games. Doesn't want to go there anymore. I mean, she's kind of tightening up anyhow. I told you how she spent all this money, and apparently it's not $2 million, now it's $8 million that they've both spent, her and Travis. I don't know whether if it's true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me given the weirdos that we've got out here. And wanting to be safe from all that nonsense, especially when you are Sizzle. But yeah, she doesn't like the bad vibes she gets going into other stadiums, like the Buffaloes and Denver's. Can't blame her. I mean, I'm sure she's so self-absorbed and so high on herself. Well, of course everybody loves me. What do you mean? People booing me and saying all these foul and vulgar things about me. I'm not having this. We get you, Sizzle. Good story here. Bernie Kosar, I'm sure you heard that he was in dire straits. Well, all you've had to see is a documentary over the last decade as far as his health declining. Had to get a liver transplant. In this case, they were able to find a donor, and apparently that was a successful. So Foxhole sends good karma, thoughts, and positive energy as far as you getting right and being able to be an ambassador for the Browns and the Canes moving forward. Always need a good story there, man. And you know what? I mentioned this a while back about Mackenzie Scott, who used to be married to Bezos. And it's like now I guess she's donating in the end, what is it going to be? 700 million, basically $750 million to HBCUs, which I think is fantastic. Those schools have always historically had to hustle for every nickel and dime there is to keep the lights on. But I will say this, if she is donating $700 million to these institutions, and somebody else just made a big donation to an HBCU too, can't think of the second, but that's not the point. I'm a big sports fan. Obviously, this is a sports podcast. Aftershocks is a sports web series, duh. But I would want that not a single cent of that $700 million goes to any athletic operating budget. Seriously. Given the shaft that the common person is getting at our favorite institutions, can't even imagine what it would be like at an HBCU. Like I said, they've always, most of them, right? It's always been a struggle to keep the lights on. And so I would like to see that go to research, funding TAs and GAs and your staff, and making sure there's some sustainability there and some security. In this crazy world, if you're going to be in athletics, you figure out a way to get the Shador or Travis Hunter to your school, even for a year, to get the eyeballs and get the money that way. If somebody's willing to help these schools out and really have an eye on their future, you don't want any of it going to athletic programs. That's what I'm gonna say. Okay, I know we're running a little bit long on this segment, so we'll make this quick. A couple of quick ones here. You see Belichick and Jordan at a co-ed adult cheerleading competition. This is after they lost to Wake Forest. Talk about a man in misery. Now I get it, you're his age and you got some dark-haired cutie up there, bombshell walking around. Yeah, you're willing to put up with probably more than a few things, obviously, but he just looked like a man that was in the third or fourth echelon of misery. Oh my goodness. And it cracks me up. Carmel by the Sea being Carmel by the Sea. If you've taken the lovely scenic drive, the 17-mile drive, that it's a little bit up a crust, to say the least. And in typical Carmel by the Sea fashion, they're going to make a move to impose pickleball, a ban on pickleball, excuse me, which cracks me up. And when I see folks here playing all hours of the day, like, does anybody work in this damn town? Y'all playing pickleball. But Carmel's saying, nah. Hey, lastly here, before we go to the 43K view, people waiting for hours in the cold last night. Okay, so Raising Cane's, which we don't have one here in Eugene. I've never been to one. I know their specialty is chicken fingers and all that good stuff. See, people, that gets cold. It's chicken fingers, damn it. Go to Walmart or Kroger. Go get yourself the big bag and make your own dipping sauce and your own fries. I just don't get it. Even if an In-N-Out came here, whatever. I still haven't been to the Chick-fil-A that's over in Springfield. And I'm not somebody who's against fast food, believe me. All right, folks. We've rambled quite a bit as far as Open Face goes. Season 10 is off and running, as they say, LFG, FTINFX. Let's do this. See you on the other side. All right then, welcome back to the fabulous Foxhole. Season 10 underway, promising to bring you more exciting stuff, hopefully new directions, more content, more friends of the Foxhole to join the experience. We want all that to happen in season 10. The scenes coming back. SJ Gets Down, the other podcast I'm a part of, or one of the multiple ones. A lot of fun stuff going on as we close out 2025. Looking forward to a spectacular 2026. Yeah. Okay. Well, the sun is kind of out. Let's get the homies and homettes. Make a quick mad dash up West 11th. Get to the Eugene Airport. Smiling as we don't have to take our shoes off at TSA anymore. Doing the high fives and fist bumps too as we get to the tarmac where our shimmering Gulfstream G650 awaits us, which will get us to our cruising altitude of 43,000 feet as we take the high view above the campuses of America. Woo! Where are we going this week? Yeah, the gambling thing, which we'll never stop talking about. Sure, it'll come up multiple times in this episode because this is where we are now that the dark side of the new normal has flexed its muscle. So, former UNO, University of New Orleans, in the Big Easy, Day Hunter says he participated in a point shaving scheme to get money for his newborn child. I thought about this for a while in terms of unpacking it and then thinking, was I going to say something snarky about this or was I going to really do a deep dive? And after doing a deep dive, for me, it's inconclusive. What do I mean by that? Well, we've talked about these schools, the smaller schools, UNO, even in New Orleans. Who do you know that played at UNO? I mean, maybe there's some rapper or entertainer that's got a big connection down there because I know that Master P's got connections down there and whatnot. Still, they aren't enjoying the riches and spoils that teams in the cartel are. Fair to say? So I can see someone like Mr. Hunter being very vulnerable, susceptible to that, right? You know, you and your lady just have a kid. I mean, you've seen the documentaries, you've read the books. If not, do so to get, a snapshot in terms of what these guys are up to, what they were up to, or how they survived before, this great windfall of NIL money and transfer portals where you can get offered to go to other schools. And that's where the fork in the road comes for me because I get the hardship part, but I'm thinking, man, if you've got any game, you can take your services elsewhere. And they'll probably say, yeah, don't worry, we'll take care of your little girl and your lady. Because that's the kind of Wild West world we live in now when it comes to college athletes and what we're willing to do to get them on our squad. So, but if you're a fringe player, and, I don't watch UNO, so I have no idea whether or not this guy has, skills that somebody would be willing to pay a few dollars for. But it does make you wonder how many more situations are like this. Guys knock up their girlfriends or wives at that age all the time. And like the guy said in the U part 1, man, I had to go and do some stealing and robbing. So, and I feel that maybe it's not quite like that anymore, but at a school like UNO, or like I was mentioning the HBCUs in the last segment, schools like that, some of your mid-majors. I mean, the dollars aren't flowing in there, and you're not good enough where a donor is going to sit there and go, yeah, man, I got a chance to win a natty. There's only at schools where folks think they can win a natty where you know the big dollars are around. And like Charles Barkley says, you're an idiot if you get caught up in any of this nonsense. All right, you know we're going to be talking about this ad nauseum, so let's move on here. You know, I'm always critical of the NCAA and still trying to figure out, you know, what its use is at this point. I mean, can they really be effective knowing that anybody can run to a judge and have something overturned quicker than you can say Red Grange? And there's something with MSU. Now, obviously, what happened with Mel Tucker, black eye on that program. And it's almost, you're taking a shot at him because of his improprieties. They use some illegal players, apparently. But they have to, like, vacate wins, I believe it is, from 22 to 24. And MSU is probably like, yeah, well, we weren't really that good during that period anyhow. But I have to wonder if they were good. Would they put up with this? And if you're one of the players, he says, why bust my ass so this fool Mel Tucker can all of a sudden vacate what I did? I should go to a judge. But of course, you can't get paid out of that, so they won't waste their time. But it makes you wonder if MSU did push back, what the hell could they do at this point? Okay. About that whole Grambling Bethune-Cookman brawl. I don't know what I was doing when it happened. These things I usually will hit on my radar quickly. But this I found out about this after the fact. I was talking about Cam Newton the other day. Anyways, it was a bad look. I mean, we all like brawls, but then again, there was something unsettling in an athletic contest when it gets to that level where we're like, oh my, do we have some stone cold thugs playing their trade here? But afterwards, Bethune-Cookman's coach coming in and saying, we're going to meet disrespect with disrespect, basically condoning it. And this is why I said in the previous segment about Mackenzie Scott. You don't need to have any of your money going to an athletic program where you've got some fool that's like, hey, you disrespected us. And it was over something stupid, just like the whole thing with the state trooper and the South Carolina players. That's right. As General Omri says, stupid shit. And this is stupid as well. And you're going to come up there and say, we're going to meet disrespect with disrespect. Man. Yeah, great role model you are for kids learning to play the game. Great role model you are for somebody that may want to write a check to an HBU athletic program. Okay. I spoke earlier this week about Brother James Franklin landing very softly, and PSU coming out pretty good too. And he's already talking about he can't wait to take part in the traditions and all that kind of stuff. And quite frankly, I'm happy to see that. This is going to be a cool, I don't know, I'd say 45 days or so, maybe a little bit longer. But now that we're getting closer to the finish line of the regular season, and Virginia Tech making the bold move, as I said the other day, you got to get off your ass and get somebody hired. There's an endless stream of folks that are qualified and could probably be difference makers at these programs that are in need of a coach. I mean, I don't know in terms of the stomach these folks have, right? Because as we're finding out with Brian Kelly, and I don't know if this is a smear campaign or there's all kinds of kernels of truth, Or probably like most things, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But folks saying he mailed it in, basically. Didn't have a stomach for recruiting anymore, was happy to get the check, play golf in the course in the golf courses around Baton Rouge. Which, at this point, why not? You know, if somebody's gonna give you a big check and you got a brand and a name, I'm good enough of a coach. We can just roll up here and compete and not really take full stock of how hard it really is in this money transfer portal era. So yeah, I'm looking for, with LSU too. I mean, I know I'm all over the place here. Thanks for bearing with me on this. But the whole Lane Kiffin pursuit, a lot of going on there too. Because obviously there was all kinds of talk that he was actually on a plane to Baton Rouge, which he's had to deny. Had people say, yeah, we're going to find out if all those things Al Davis said when he had that classic Lands End sweater on reading from the overhead projector. It's going to be interesting because you got like Joel Klatt says he's going to be in Florida. Other people say, no, it's LSU. And some folks say, hey, money's no issue to the folks down in Oxford. So, but once these dominoes start falling, schools like OSU go up there and get it done. Identify somebody. You got a national search committee. Anyway, yeah, we're at a leisure place today. Very leisure. Let's talk. Somebody else there said that was going to be on the move possibly. Steve Sarkisian. But after they got mauled by the dogs, Sark tells the media, I ain't going anywhere. And as they're happy with him in Austin, he shouldn't go anywhere. He was no part of the NFL. I really don't know if there is too many jobs out there that are better than being at UT, given how they love their football and given how much money there is in Texas. Just saying, y'all. Oklahoma, I think, has done a better job. I agree with the folks on TV this week that say that they're more ready to play in this new normal than Texas is, as far as being able to compete with the top of the SEC and these burly, fast teams that you're seeing emerge in the Big Ten. Wow. So yeah, Oklahoma beats Bama in Tuscaloosa, and where we were happy about Kalen DeBoer, now folks have got the torches, the pitchforks, the tar and feathers. Been watching Ken Burns, the American Revolution this week, so okay. Check it out, it's good stuff. Well, Ken Burns always. But back to the Sooners. Yeah, they've been very impressive. Alabama, you don't got St. Nick anymore. And you were going to get one or two losses, especially when you play in a tough conference. And your schedule's not full of Twinkies, Zingers, and Ho-Hos. Dion tells Colorado and the world, in spite of being 16-9 overall in Boulder, 3-7 this year, I'm still the guy. Well, what the hell is he supposed to say? Is Prime ever going to admit that he's failed at something? Hell no. And I wouldn't want him to. Given what a dumpster fire that program was, as I've said, and I'm not the biggest Prime fan, never will be, but the kind of buzz that he's brought, we'll talk about his son a little bit later, but yeah, he said the right things, and in spite of certain folks thinking he could be in trouble at Boulder, be please. Okay. What's going on the hoops? Gotta start keeping an eye on that. Love the flippy floppy with Purdue and Houston as far as a 1 and 2 spot. They're both undefeated. Last time I checked, like 4-0, 5-0. I did take in an early big season matchup last night as number 4 Arizona went to Stores to play the number 3 UConn Huskies. Arizona outslugs them. Dan Hurley not happy. Surprise, no surprise there. I'd be curious to see of what's going to happen with Arizona this year. They're looking very formidable. It was like Wednesday night, yeah, because today's Thursday. Oh, and the women, UConn's 1. They're like 5-0. Last time I checked, South Carolina's 2. Big story there. South Carolina playing USC in the battle of who's the real USC. Well, damn. Since Cheryl Miller's been gone for quite some time, we know who the real USC in women's basketball is. But just to make sure, Lady Dawn's girls took care of business in South Carolina, got the better of USC. But it would have been nice to see what would have happened if Juju was there. We miss you, Juju. I'll leave you with this one. I was going off earlier about Mackenzie Scott giving all the money to HBCUs. And I saw about University of California. It's about to raise its tuition once again. Well, the whole system. And the outrage. And I sit there and think, when you're at UCLA or Berkeley and you're looking across the way going, right, our teams can't compete for a daddy. We're supposed to be paid for this high caliber education that you keep bleeding my parents for, taking away their golden pot existence because it's all the money's going to make sure I can get through my 4 years, and you're going to ask me for more? Must be an interesting time to be on campus when you have the juxtaposition of the money-making colossus that's athletics, especially football and basketball, if you're in the right conference and at the right school, mind you. And then the rest of the body fighting for oxygen, minerals, resources to stay afloat. Yeah, 2025. So that means 2026 is going to be that much more wackier. All right, folks, we'll be back with something you should probably know when we return. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. We're ice cold chilling on a terrific Thursday. Getting ready for some Thursday night football. The Bills and the Texans. So we're kind of excited about that. But in the meanwhile, let's head to one of our favorite segments that we do on this podcast. Something you should probably know. Or things that happened this past week in the world of sports you might want to know or even care about. What was it like? UFC 322? I know I say this over and over again. But remember when they were talking about, we can get to 300? And then 300 came and went, and now we're at 22? Because this is an MSG, the world's most famous arena. Of course, if you're only chilling if your kid could get it in Studio 54, seeing fish. Or Celebrity Row, of course. But anyway, so the big takeaways here for UFC 322. Mr. Makhachev, Islam, defeats Jake, Della Maddalena to capture the welterweight championship. which makes him like the only person to win two different divisions because he was previously the UFC's lightweight champion. Then he moved up to welterweight. So props to him. One of the stars. But that's just it. Outside of the folks that follow this, does he really draw any interest outside of UFC junkies? You all tell me. I'll have to ask my friend about it. And then you have Valentina Shevchenko. She ties Amanda Nunes for most title wins. So having the belt, how many times you defended your belt. She beat Zhang Weili by decision. So that was kind of the big takeaway there. As far as boxing goes, because the whole Jake Paul Tank Davis fight that was called off because Tank Davis doing Tank Davis kind of things, or as General Andre likes to say, out there doing stupid shit. So now we have this fight where it's Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. Who is Anthony Joshua, since nobody really pays attention to boxing that much anymore? Well, Anthony Joshua is a former two-time unified heavyweight champion. So maybe this fight could be interesting, but with Mr. Paul, it's hard to say. I'll have to do a little bit more research to see if I should actually tune into this mockery. Sorry, Jake, because that's what it's been thus far. But hey, I'm willing to take a look at this, perhaps. Okay, what's happening on the links? Well, you had the World Tour Championship in Dubai last week. Yeah, I know. How many championships can you have? But in golf, there seems to be an endless amount of them. So you have Matt Fitzpatrick defeats Rory in a playoff to win the actual event, but Rory ends up being the points winner in Europe, and he's got the golden key to go back to the big tournament in Dubai. So everybody wins, everybody drinks Dom Perignon, and make more money. I guess. Cool for Rory though. And Matt Fitzpatrick, mind you. You have Stuart Sink winning the Champions Tour finale and the points title in Phoenix. So, he bought his wife something very special because it was a great weekend for Stuart Sink. Yeah. Okay. Woo! Tiger update. Yeah. I guess the legendary No Tempe Gay, who, played with him at Stanford and now gets his checks from the Golf Channel. I guess he dropped some hints about what you might see from Tiger in the future. One that if he does play moving forward, it's going to be on courses that don't have a lot of elevation because I guess the whole walking thing is just bad for his knees, his back, and everything else broken on the guy. And the whole idea that I spoke about a few weeks ago of him playing on the Champions Tour, yeah, it's very legit. You get to cruise in a cart there. And people say, do we even care about Tiger anymore? The Peanut Gallery was all over that. I said, what the hell are you talking about? Broken down Tiger is still going to draw eyeballs, if anything, for people to overact and talk shit about. But, Tiger's always going to be an illuminating figure in that same way that Jordan can come on NBC for a minute. Everybody says, oh my gosh, we heard from the heavens. That's the same thing with Tiger taking the clubs out to the course in any shape or form. Am I lying? Now this is interesting. The next point. Top Golf 60% of Top Golf has been sold to a private equity fund. Gee, I wonder where that fund is based out of. Really interesting. It makes sense. I talked about TGL last week, how I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't know what kind of future it had. But that on the local level, and let's face it, the whole social golf thing, it's a big hit. So I can see somebody say, "Oh yeah, well, here, we're gonna give you a wheelbarrows of cash. We got it from here. You did a good job with the branding and the concept. We've got it from here." So hopefully this doesn't diminish the Golf Plus experience. In fact, hopefully it expands. Of course, we probably won't be able to afford it, but you never know. Curious to see what happens now that the big money people have just said, yeah, it's our turn. Okay. This is kind of a bummer. Mr. Alcaraz, a favorite of friend of the show, Mr. Big, but he likes Center too. As you go back and check out Aftershocks with my man, Mr. Big. He's going to miss the Davis Cup. He's got a hamstring injury. And that's one of the things on his resume that he has not completed, or he's yet to add to his resume, would be better stated. That's kind of a bummer there. But I do feel down the road, Carlos will get his opportunity to get his Davis Cup notch. As always, we got to give some love to our girl, Michaela Schifrin. She starts out the World Cup slalom season with career victory 102 in Finland. Or as we like to say, she doing that voodoo that she do. So good for her. And then we had the Grey Cup this past weekend. Woohoo! Yeah, I remember those days when ESPN first came on, or at least when we first got it, and we were really psyched to watch CFL. And I lived up in North Dakota way back in the day, and I used to see CFL games going back to the 70s. Remember when we'd be psyched when it was on ESPN? But like now, you'll see it on CBS Sports Network, and you're just like, please. But it is always cool to see the Grey Cup. And even cooler to see a team like the Saskatchewan Roughriders get the love. Especially when you see the post-game celebration in Regina, Saskatchewan. And how laid back and chill everybody was. You didn't see anybody breaking shit or flexing. Yeah, they were just gonna sit back, enjoy their adult bevs, and back they were in a good mood. But I'm like, yeah, that's the way you celebrate. All right, folks. When we return, we will talk the NBA. All right. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your favorite host, Kid Harlan here, bringing you the season premiere, number 10. Always cool. We do 32 episodes a season. That's why we've had 10 seasons in 5 years, basically 2 a year. And I always sit there and think, well, gosh, what can we do different? All these ideas, and then all of a sudden it comes on season time. Got any fascinating things? Anyway, we're always looking for feedback. There's stuff you think we should be talking about, or angles we should be pursuing. Love to hear from you. FTINFX@gmail.com. 541-525-0896. Yeah. Let me see here while we're at it here. As I said I was going to do this. Bear with me. Really looking forward to this game tonight. Because I'll talk about it more in the NFL report. But yeah, okay, this is what I was going to say. We need for folks to subscribe to the YouTube channel and start watching Aftershocks. We usually get the new episodes up. They premiere like Tuesday night, 11 o'clock Pacific time. You can watch it whenever. But yes, it's youtube.com / at FTINFX. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please get us more engagement. All right. Enough talking. Let's get rocking here. Wow. A lot of stuff going on with the Lakers today. Something always going on with the Lakers, but this is pretty significant. Earlier in the week, the Lakers and other teams were asked to turn over their cell phones and the gambling probe. People close to LeBron, apparently. There's a lot of smoke, but I'm not sure as the extent of what type of fire we're talking about here as far as this goes. Mr. Silver and his deputies, pretty tight-lipped. Not a lot of leaks going on. Shams hasn't dropped a major bomb yet. So keep an eye on that. Then you have the Lakers firing the bus boys. Or they basically had their roles terminated. And the whole scouting team by Mark Walter and company, as he is now the chairman of the board of the Los Angeles Lakers. And there's a lot of stuff here going on. This happened today. The internet's already abuzz. People saying this is retaliation because they voted against the sale, and this is Genie's way of getting back at them. People, stop trying to create drama and call this for what it probably is, and I don't know. I mean, I don't have a bug in the boardroom, but I'm going to go with what people that seem to be level-headed are saying. New sheriffs in town. And just like when they took over the Dodgers, same group of folks. I know this because my buddy used to be part of the Dodger organization. It's clean house. Sentiment be damned. This is no longer a mom and pop operation. And we're going to put our face and our style on the face of this franchise. And those guys are talented, and the current scouting staff, they've done wonders, finding guys like Caruso and Austin Reeves, obviously. But clearly, Mark Walter has a vision. Okay. Another thing that's kind of interesting is what Steve Kerr was discussing with the media. He's got concerns about the faster pace of today's NBA. He thinks that's why we have an uptick of injuries, soft tissue type of stuff. As opposed to, it's an excuse to load manage. I mean, there is, high volume injuries. We see that Wemby is going to be out 2 to 3 weeks now with a calf strain. I was looking closer into this. Like with the Warriors, what do you got? Like, when they beat the Spurs twice last week, that was like their 17th game in 29 days in 12 different cities. I'm like thinking, yeah, that's a grind. It's not that I think Kerr is being overdramatic, because I've said for years, and many others have said it long before I have, you need to make this season, 63, 64 games. 82 plus the long grind of the playoffs. And now with this media rights deal where, we're trying to get as much visibility I don't know. I just guess it depends on the schedule maker. Because what you get see with the Lakers, where they've got like two games in 10 days or something like that. So there might be something to that. In the end, the season's just too long, and we've been saying this for many years. Make it 62 games, and you probably won't have. We probably have the injuries, just because the way these guys are so fine tuned now. They're very susceptible to all kinds of whacked out stuff. That's just the way it goes. That's the price you pay for winning the genetic lottery, right? Anyway, you may have a point there. How about the Cavs? Speaking of load management, they were fined $100K. They set out Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell last week. And it's basically one of those high profile games where, hey, if you don't have your people suited up, you're gonna get dinged. And I guess Mr. Silver and company looked into this and were not satisfied with the Cavaliers' excuse. I mean, $100K, really? Talk about cab fare for these guys, but still. I think you need to get a little bit tougher there as far as. I guess I need to look into what happens if you do it again. Is it like, okay, you get 100K? What's the escalation, for repeat offenders? Okay, so it's back to the Lakers. LeBron returned. This is after the Lakers slammed the Bucks on Saturday night. A couple of hiccups, but that was an impressive win on Saturday. LeBron returns Tuesday night. They play the Jazz, kind of a back and forth affair. Kind of a pedestrian stat line, 11 points, 12 assists. We played 30 minutes, working his way back in. Clearly, you could tell he was a little butthurt that he wasn't getting all the shine. We'll see what happens as we move along. I talked about the teams in the East on Aftershocks the other day and their rise. Got to keep an eye on the Rockets. What is that? They've won like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 11. KD and that young core working together very well and completely off the radar. It's kind of interesting. We talked about the Bulls. Yeah, they got some good. They kind of came back to earth, but they did get a couple of impressive wins, beating the Nuggets by 3, and then sinking the Blazers with that buzzer beater. It's interesting about the Blazers, but you kind of knew they were going to have their growing pains, especially when you have Drew Holiday out for a couple of games. But this whole idea that, they could be a play-in team, it could still happen, but let's pump the brakes on that talk for now. The Raptors, 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 10 at this point. I mean, the Hawks are balling. We obviously, like I said, I've talked about the Pistons earlier in the week. All good there. I think it's interesting that Mark Cuban is injecting himself back into the Mavericks. I mean, I guess the whole Luka thing pissed him off to the point where it's okay, I need to get back involved. And so, from what I understand, he's kind of making a power play to be a mover and shaker again in that franchise. We'll see what happens there with that. Yeah, we're starting to cook in the NBA here. Now, what are we at? Almost 15 games? It's a long haul, but it's going pretty fast. All right, folks. When we return, we'll talk some beautiful game life. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' as the sun is starting to make its way down earlier, as it tends to do this time of the year. All right, let's go pitchside, shall we? I think I mentioned this on Aftershocks episode 15 the other day. I was talking about check our YouTube channel out. About the president, number 47, hinting at moving World Cup games out of Seattle. So, the mayor-elect Katie Wilson. And he's meeting with the guy from New York as well. I think this is happening today or tomorrow. Now, I'd like to have a bug in the room when those conversations come up. As I said on Aftershocks, I really don't see the wisdom of him yanking games over political nonsense. Because as General Andre would say, that is definitely doing some stupid shit. If these cities turned into anarchy, sure. But, nah, man, come on. Come on, man. Oh, good grief. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. Because with the World Cup coming up, and the last international break of the year, World Cup fever is taking hold. I'll talk about the USA in a closer look. So, as SJ would say, we're going to put a pin in that for a second. But what I can say, how about England? They went like undefeated in the World Cup qualifiers. And everybody's just squawking about the squad. Now, I know it's been a long time since she's come home. That whole 1966 thing for the men. And this is where I tend to agree with Alexi Lawless. The soccer peanut gallery as a whole can be insufferable, but there's something really special when it comes to the Three Lions in terms of watching their dysfunction, if not straight up psychotic behavior at times. And I'm just sitting there watching this with the World Cup. You can just feel the temperature rising on the island. Yeah, everybody else is kicking it. I mean, obviously, if you're Italy and you have to be in the playoffs, you ain't happy about that. That's going to be a whole interesting dynamic to this. And the people that complain about the expanded format and all that kind of stuff. Come on, man. Curacao makes the World Cup. What is it, like 160,000 people in that nation? You mean to tell me that's not a great story? What's that they always say? Man, you must be real fun at parties if you do not like something like this. Same thing with Haiti. All the things they've been through over the last 2 decades. That they're going to have a moment to get around their countrymen. I think this is a good thing. And we're going to be hosting it. Stop being so salty, people. Like, oh man, I don't like how watered down this is going to be. We were the same people complaining about the Club World Cup and how some of the stuff was unnecessary. But yet we saw some incredible soccer and some great scenes, especially with the fans, their supporting groups and things like that. Like I said, go crack yourself an IPA. Go to the dispo. Get the Sunday fun day. And just chill out. Don't be so cranky about everything. Soccer peanut gallery. My goodness. Okay. So MLS drops its schedule today. Lot to unpack here. Oh my goodness. So we know on, I think February 21st, the season opener. And boy, do we have a doozy. Oh, Mr. Messi comes to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, scene of many historic events, to face my LAFC and Mr. Sun, Hung Moon. Two of the biggest stars, obviously, in MLS. Smart move, Garber having this as a showcase matchup to kick off a wonderful season and the year of the World Cup. And before you adopt the, the global calendar schedule. So, yeah, it's so much to unpack with this. If one, the typical whiny LAFC fans screaming, why the Coliseum? Because the Coliseum, you can get 90,000 people. And with Mr. Sun and Mr. Messi, are you kidding me? Are people that stupid? Or are you just that self-absorbed and self-entitled? Oh, it should be a BMOS. We should be able to have an intimate game. The kind of money that they can generate for this, I mean, it's going to be a global event. That's why it's at the freaking Coliseum. Maybe you should be asking, why isn't it not at SoFi? I mean, really, are you people that self-absorbed? Or do I need to go to the dispo that you go to so I can be that high as well? You tell me. And one other thing we found out about the Spurs of 2026 MLS season, with the World Cup coming to the United States, MLS will take a 7-week hiatus. Yeah, 7 weeks. A lot to unpack here. I mean, one, they're going to get in the jump on everybody that's going to be discharged for that. I think the deadline there is like the end of May, and they're just going to or sometime in June, but they're going to try to do it a couple of weeks ahead and just, hey, we're shutting the whole thing down. Kind of giving us a little sneak peek of when the league does go to the global calendar, and you take, I don't know, is it like a month and a half? Probably about that long, maybe a little bit longer, but sort of just prepping the ground for that. All you people that hate the playoff setup, you won't have to worry about that next year. It will the international break and then the playoffs uninterrupted, so that is a good thing. Yeah. Other takeaway from the MLS schedule drop, Miami's new crib that was built with a lot of consternation and controversy. Ask Billy Corbin about that. 4-4. Mark your calendars. The Verde come to South Beach to help Inter Miami christen their new crib. I'll be tuned in for that. Yeah. Okay, what else do we got going around the horn? You see Birmingham City, Brady has a piece in it and some other celebrities. They just announced plans for a state-of-the-art 62,000-seat stadium to attract global events. Saw the early renderings, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, when you start seeing these lower clubs thinking about the future. I mean, obviously they want to be in the EPL, but they're also saying, dude, if we build the crib, we can get the NFL up in this bitch, especially if it's state-of-the-art, which anything new should be, especially if you've got folks that have deep pockets to make it happen. But yeah, that definitely is something that made my eyebrows rouse. I'm like, Birmingham City. And of course, Brady and others being a part of it makes sense. Okay, here's one for you. My man, Kylian Mbappe, or as the folks in the soccer peanut gallery say, in PayPal, he claims now that PSG owe him $300 million in compensation. Is this guy something, or is this guy something? Can you just leave this alone? You made a lot of money. There was a lot of backroom dealing with you and the Emirs. I know you're always going to be butthurt that the Red and Blues won Champions League without your ass, and you did not get it done at Real Madrid last year. But focus on that and stop being so petty with PSG. And PSG, you do. You all come to some kind of agreement and bury the hatchet with this shit so everybody can move on. Mbappe's former PSG teammate, Arif Hakimi, an interesting character, one of the best backs in the world. He wins Africa's version of the Ballon d'Or. Very deserving, I might add, given the year that he's had. And like how his star is rising. Although there were times being a PSG fan, I just go, but hey, he's the man as far as Africa is concerned. Okay. How about this one? The rumor mill says Karim Benzema may come back to La Liga and rejoin Los Blancos. What a turnaround that would be. Pairing him with PayPal, aka Kylian Mbappe. Yeah, I can see that. I gotta wonder how the numbers will go, and the whole thing, like with Messi wanting to come back to Barca at some point. You know, would it work with how Real Madrid has evolved since, or some people will say regressed since he left? We'll keep an eye on that. Okay. CR7 visits the White House, and the internet was completely confused as far as how to react to that. See, it was easy, as I said earlier, about W coming on the Manning cast, but folks who already kind of don't like CR7 to begin with, it was kind of muted. And because people just were kind of perplexed as far as how to process, let alone comment. Yeah, fun world we're living in at times. If not, anyway, I'll leave you with this one. USL1 Championship this past weekend. When Knoxville takes down Velocity of Spokane. Why am I talking about this? Because local team here, Sporting Cascades Football Club, or if you talk to the right aces, Cascade FC, this is your league. This is a window into what we're stepping into. And I, for one, am very excited heading into 2026 that us folks in Eugene will get a chance to compete and take away one Knoxville's crown they just won. Give it up to my man Sat. Big job in front of you. We're looking forward to it. All right, folks, we're rocking and rolling. When we come back, we'll do the Nightfall of Diamonds. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Cold chilling. Get things in order as we usher in a new season. Trying to slowly alter things a little bit. As we say on Aftershocks, always under construction, always improving, always doing that CI/CD thing, right? Okay. Well, we are in the hot stove chill season as far as the Nightfall of Diamonds are concerned. But let's start with the Dark Star crashes. Oh, some hippie stuff we talk about. I did get a chance over the last couple of nights to take in the Disco Biscuits and their new drummer, at least for now, at least for the rest of the year, Mr. Marlin. And I'm enjoying it. It's kind of funny if you hippies, and you know what I'm talking about as far as PT, Fantasy Tour, the peanut gallery of the hippie jam band world, where, gee, I gotta say, when it comes to the Biscuits fans, you think the soccer peanut gallery is insufferable. Biscuits fans on PT of their form when they're talking about a show that they're either at or watching on Couch Tour or listening on Couch Tour. How salty they are. I'm like going, wow. Can you be happy about anything, or do you just live your life to be miserable? So I'm sitting here listening to this music and watching, because I chat with my friends on Discord, and I'm like reading the forums and watching these people dissect the song and the groove to this really minute detail. When once again, go get IPA or a Pale, go to the dispo and actually enjoy your freaking self. Whenever you're at the show, put your damn phone off, put your damn phone down, and go dance your ass off. But yeah, I think this is interesting. It's got its share of hiccups. See, what else do I got here? Like geese. I tried checking that out. Dogs in the pile, same thing. Couldn't last too long as far as that goes. So the word on that's still inconclusive. Really glad that Trey's getting ready to celebrate the Beacon Jams coming up here next weekend. So a lot of fun stuff on Couch Tour there and all the good holiday shows. All right, let's talk some real Nightfall of Diamonds, as we always do. We talk a little hippie stuff just for kicks and giggles, because a lot of people I know that listen to this podcast are into the jams, and I'll always be into the jams. But let's talk baseball. Unfortunately, somber stuff to begin with. RIP to Randy Jones. He passed away at 75. If you're old school like I am, you remember him at the Padres. That great Sports Illustrated cover where it said threat to win 30, because he had like 16 wins at the All-Star break. I think he ended up at like 24, 25 wins, but at that point, played with the Mets later. But yeah, at that point, dude had the stuff. Anyways, condolences go out to his family, Padres fans, and all that good stuff from way back in the day. Okay. The story that just adds more salt to the dish. Let's put it this way: if you have hypertension, you want to get away from this plate. When it comes to the A's, there can't be a week without some kind of drama going on or something to get somebody agitated about. This week is Yolo County. You know that. Where the counties are up there in Northern California, where Sacramento is. I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact. Maybe if I had an intern that could do my research as opposed to like, hey, I gotta put the show together, content. And sometimes I always forget, like, let me look this up. But Yolo County wants to raise revenue by adding a surcharge to A's tickets. And I thought to myself, oh my frigging word. Yet another reason to not be in love with this particular situation. The clusterfuck that it already is, and now you want to charge me for more cheddar. As somebody pointed out, it was this kind of stupid bullshit that cost Sacramento its opportunity when MLS was primed to give them the keys to an expansion franchise in this great wave that's happened with that league. But as somebody pointed out, it's stupid shit like this why teams just go, thanks, but no thanks. So yeah, Sacramento, Yolo County, way to go. I did see one of the pillars going up at the Palliser building in Vegas. So all you people who still don't think it's going to happen, I think you could put the doomsday clock away. It's probably over, but as they say, it ain't over till it's really over. What else do we have here? Okay. So Manfred says, our commissioner, Rob Manfred, says he doesn't foresee any future restrictions being imposed on prop bets. He thinks MLB made the moves to protect the integrity of the game. Well, we shall see about that. Because Congress isn't that happy about it. In fact, Congress wants answers regarding MLB's gambling scandals. And you never want Congress as inefficient and ineffective as we all know that they probably are. But ask the steroid boys what happens when Congress does poke its nose in there. You don't want that. And somebody tells me the gambling industry doesn't want this because something gnarly is going to come about this. I can't be 1,000% for sure on that, but I do believe it's trending that way. Indeed, I do. Okay. MLB. Uptick in popularity, as we've talked about in previous episodes. Not a surprise here that they entered a 3-year media rights agreement with NBC, Universal, Netflix, and NBC. With NBC, everything going full circle. We all grew up watching Tony Kubek, Joe G, Vin Scully, and so on. Netflix will get cool stuff like the Home Run Derby. I say cool with air quotes. But yeah, certain things like that we can't be bothered with, but perfect for the geeks. Okay, you're gonna get paper cut to death with another subscription if you don't have Netflix already. I think it's good. More platforms. They'll give an ESPN still being involved. Sure, why not? Yeah, because NBC, Netflix, and ESPN, Disney. So that's good. Very good for baseball. Definitely on the uptick in this decade. And so let's grab our popcorn, grab our dogs. We don't have to be at the park because there's going to be all on the tube. Okay. Now, I thought this was interesting. This is who's been added to the Hall of Fame ballot for 2026. Cole Hamels, Ryan Braun, and Matt Kemp. This is what it comes down to, really. I mean, Cole Hamels was all right at that one World Series with the Phillies, but is that Hall of Fame worthy? Ryan Braun, well, gee, you got tainted by PED, so no Barry, no Roger, no you. Matt Kemp, really? Really? I don't look at this as I'm dogging any of these guys. All good players. But as Dion says, not that I agree with Dion on a lot of things, but I do agree on this. If you have to think for even a second about somebody's Hall of Fame credentials, they probably don't belong there. Okay. Well, God, we don't have to worry about belonging anywhere. How about the Mariners? They're going to retire Randy Johnson's iconic 51 in 2026. Which I thought, wow, it's interesting that he got his jewelry with the Diamondbacks, with Schill in that epic World Series, taking down the Yankees after 9/11. But then I thought, man, yeah, when the Mariners kind of became iconic, he was a big part of that. And it's kind of surprising it's actually taken this long. Of course, that means you're going to have him and Ichiro's 51 together. So that truly will be Area 51. Ding! Okay. Remember when I brought up the whole thing with Yogi Berra's jersey and how it had been found in the Girls Club in Harlem? I guess he did go back after the fact and was he, what do they call that? Verified it or authenticated. It went for 363. That's 363K at auction. Not bad for somebody who a lot of folks probably don't appreciate what a badass number 8 was. What, in my opinion, the greatest catcher in MLB history. Because he just had so much money in his wallet when it mattered. But yeah, I think that was pretty cool. And once again, I hope that the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem got a little love out of that. All right, folks, that's the Nightfall of Diamonds. We'll come back at you with a closer look when we return. Alrighty, welcome back to the Foxhole. We're swinging and swaying as we're inaugurating another season, number 10 overall in the Foxhole. Always glad to be with you on a Thursday afternoon. Looking forward to NFL football kicking off here in a few minutes. Another great weekend of sports. MLS playoffs coming back this weekend. Yeah, that's what's so crazy. Just out flying the drone. Then after I was putting it away, I was looking at my phone and that whole thing with Joy Reid of all people weighing in on the trans phobia in sports and how she's kind of flip flopped. Yeah, people are having discussions, and even if they don't like it, folks are starting to see what we've said all along. Let's talk about it. Let's make some adult decisions and act like adults about this and come up with some solutions that work. Yeah, I see the whole thing with the governor's race in California. Anyways, let's do a closer look. I could talk about that, but I had other stuff I wanted to get to, but I just saw that and just thought about it. Got on a little ramble. Let's start with the Sanders circus on full blast once again. Dylan Gabriel gets the concussion. Shador comes in. He put up 4 of 16. I think we talked about it earlier in the week. But the amount of emotion surrounding this kid. Never in my wildest dreams would I think that there'd be as much buzz for a 5th rounder. And the social justice warriors and race hustlers who have decided this is going to be where they do Harry carryover. It's unbelievable. The goalpost being moved is one thing, but this whole narrative that's sort of been built and trying to figure out if he's being set up for failure, is he being sabotaged? My goodness. I mean, has anybody ever said that about Josh Johnson? What has he been on, like 14 or 15 teams? Or Sam Darnold, who's making his way around, Mac Jones? Did anybody sabotage their friggin' career? These people set up for failure. We don't have that narrative. Or Josh Rosen, who was run out of the league after 13 starts. Or Johnny Football after 7 or 8 starts. But yet, all of a sudden, we have the Hive screaming and yelling. And well, what happens if he somehow, against a bad Raider defense, doesn't ball out. You know, everybody's like, well, you know, he had the opportunity to win the game. When he came into the game, his team had the lead, as I said the other day. But don't tell that to the SJWs and race hustlers and Dion sexuals who've become Shador sexuals. I mean, I don't want to be too hard on the kid. You know, like looking at his press conference, and it just still seems like it's a game to him. Not the game of football, but a game. And it's not surprising that teams passed on him when you watch the way how this guy carries himself in interviews and just this sort of nonchalance. I like that he's got confidence saying, hey, I'm the one. Well, if you're the one, it ain't going to take much for Stefanski, whose job is probably done with after this season, to give you an opportunity to maybe save his job. I agree with what Nick Wright said. If he stinks it up, will he get another shot? Because he's not Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson comes with no baggage. This guy comes with the whole line of American Tourister. You know, back in the day, they were famous for luggage, but you get what I'm saying. I feel bad for the kid. I thought I'd never say that, but it's a no-win situation. He's going to have his slurpers, but I think there's going to be a lot of resentment, even if he is kind of successful as far as that goes. I think it's dead in his shenanigans, which is talked about earlier at Colorado, and Travis Hunter. It's kind of the same thing with the ball boys. You create an incredible amount of hype that can't be met. And I wonder about that with Shador. That's the only reason why I kind of feel bad for the kid in this particular case. Otherwise, you know, we'll see. You got the Raiders, so you're getting a softball. And that's my other fear is, okay, if he goes out and balls against a bad Raiders team, the Slippers are going to be insufferable. They have been already after he went 4-16. Okay. The United States men's national team closed out the year with 2 impressive wins. In fact, the 5-1 win over Uruguay may have been one of the more impressive wins this decade in terms of a commanding and demanding performance by the United States men's national team. Yeah, 5 goals. They look like they could have put up 8 or 9. What we're digging here with Pochettino is this team is clearly establishing an identity. It's showing grit. It's showing it can be creative. Remember what I said a while back? You know, let's put a pin in this and let's just observe. Let's not have knee-jerk reactions. So we're not going to have a knee-jerk reaction to these last 2 windows. But after coming out of the summer, looking like they had no clue or plan as far as how they were going to compete next year, you're seeing something. Now, I'm not telling the Netherlands, Spain, England, and Germany's of the world to be shaking in their boots. They're not. But if this product, what we've seen in these last 2 windows, carries over to next year, and mind you, this was out their best player, and they beat Uruguay 5-1. Took care of Paraguay as well. Did fantastic in the previous window. I think we can be okay with this. I mean, after all, I think most folks aren't that high on crack. They think, well, yeah, we got to win this thing. But you got to be able to show up and compete. And what we're seeing with Pochettino's squad, unbeaten in their last 5, we might just get that. I think, as I said on my social media, you have to be careful never to get too carried away with results with this bunch. And then doing it right in front of friendly faces, which will happen during the World Cup. There'll be at some point where they're going to have to go out the hostile territory in the international competitions. That's the true test of what Mauricio was preaching as far as building something. We think that something can happen, but we've been fooled before. So I don't want to sit here and be like, "Oh yeah, man, everybody bust out your flags and your jerseys. You know, the cool one from the Alexi Lawless era, or the even cooler one from the later on. I'm trying to think of who was on that squad. Anyway, yeah, I say pump the brakes on that. I think we continue to watch this with guarded optimism and enthusiasm too, because you definitely want to tune in and give these guys all the love you possibly can as we're heading into, I think the biggest moment, even bigger than '94 in American soccer history, as far as the showcase and the potential springboard as '94 was for MLS. I think what I can do now for MLS and the USL and the women's game and all that stuff. Yeah, it's exciting times here. And I think after having a large window of doubt and angst about it, I think we can really sit back and just go, okay, let's enjoy this, let's root, and maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised when we get to the World Cup next year. Time will tell. All right, we will get you out of here with the NFL report and some TMCA time when we return, y'all. Alrighty, folks. Getting you all ready for a fantastic weekend of sports ahead of us. I know I need to do a little adjustment here as I watching the Spurs minus Wemby playing the Hawks. That's a big game, but the NFL is on Prime. So while I'm reaching for the remote, bear with me. All right. Check out Aftershocks 15. Looking forward to 16, maybe 17. A lot of things brewing in the Foxhole, so stay tuned there. Okay. I mentioned Manfred in the Nightfall Diamonds, Commissioner Manfred, basically saying he didn't think there needed to be any modifications to prop bets. Well, apparently, the powers that be in the NFL are looking into prop bets and trying to figure out ways of curtailing it. They're not comfortable. Now, it's kind of interesting that we haven't had anything major turn up in football, at least in the NFL yet, like we've seen in the NBA and college basketball. Somehow football, when that can't be the case. But the NFL really trying to get out in front of this. Not a surprise there, knowing, Commissioner Goodell and the sponsors. And so I would not be in the slightest shock if next season the kind of prop bets you can place in the NFL are totally curtailed. I think this thing is what you saw in the NBA and what you're seeing in other places is scaring the crap out of everybody as far as potential damage to the product is concerned. Okay. A lot happened this past week. Obviously, the Broncos asserting themselves in the AFC West. The legend of Bo Nix growing. Questions about Mahomes. Like there could be any questions about that guy. and what he's already done. I said earlier in the year that sooner or later, these teams that have been on a good run, you're going to have a hiccup. It's just too competitive, and injuries, all of these things. What the Chiefs have done getting to the AFC Championship game 7 years in a row or whatever it is. Sooner or later, they have to have a hiccup. And even at 5-5, they can still end up 11-6 and 12-5 in there. Problem with them is the tiebreakers could be a problem because they are taking some losses within the conference, and that ain't good in the division as well. The Chiefs aren't done, folks. It's just they got a tough road in front of them. The Eagles dominate the Lions, even though there's all kinds of weird A.J. Brown stuff. Now there's weird Hurt stuff. Supposedly he's a teammate that folks just really don't like that much, which I can totally see that, just the way he carries himself. I don't think in a bad way, but I can see how folks could be put off by that sort of, nonchalant kind of, I don't want to say it's arrogance, but it's just got this, you got a confidence about him. Like, I ain't studying what y'all are doing. I'm on my own trip. And that might put people off in the wrong way, but I loved how he addressed all of that, and they're 8-2. They don't have to be playing great right now. They're 8-2, and they can get back to where they were last year pretty quickly. Although the Lane Johnson injury could be key in terms of seeding because they're not really good without him as far as when it hurts his main protectors is concerned. Just saying. Yeah. I know the phone's blowing up over here. Jeez. So the Rams and the Hawks, that was a thriller. I think I talked about that on Aftershock, so we don't need to go too much there. The Rams, the class of the NFC. No, the Eagles still are. Even if it was by the slightest of hairs the last 2 times, until the Rams prove to me that they can beat the Eagles are still the class of the NFC. The reigning champions at 8-2, not much to debate if you ask me, as far as that's concerned. The Mrs. Fields, we should say again, no, we can't be. We talked about the whole Draymond thing, so we don't want to go there. But Mr. Fields Cookies is the experiment over in Gotham, as Aaron Glenn, probably wanting to save his job, is going to go with Mr. Taylor, Tyrod Taylor, as the starter probably for the rest of the season. Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York. Are you on your way to being the next Josh Johnson is the question, Mr. Justin Fields. Tape don't lie. Yeah. Okay. So Caleb outduels J.J. McCarthy. You get that part of it, but the whole concern with J.J. Saw a lot of people today, Phil Simms, Greg Cosell. People aren't liking what they're seeing. But I also can say that about Bo Nix 3/4 of the time until it's winning time, and then he looks like Elway 2.0. I think it's premature to put the bus label on J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. Although, if we can get some more data, or if he gets benched like Mr. Fields, that's going to say a lot. I mean, there's already volume spoken that Carson Wentz had a torn labrum and was trying to play. They were like, yeah, if you can get out there, because we don't trust this kid yet. Okay. I talked about on Aftershocks, Teflon Justin. Still can't get over what a terrible loss that was for the Chargers. You cannot get your ass slammed by the Jaguars, who their record's okay, and they got that win against the Chiefs, which, how impressive is that really? But come on. And they're 7-4, so it's no reason to hit the panic button, but you just keep seeing these bad losses. Right. You got Aaron Rodgers, he cracked his wrist. That's gonna be. I think he's gonna play with a brace. Boy, that division's such a mess. Because Joey Cool, I guess, is gonna play this week, or he's trying to. Definitely by next week. Could be an interesting three-way race between the Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals for one spot. Yeah. Okay, the Packers, they just did enough to win. They were J Lo or J Love, whatever you want to call him, Brother Love as I call him. They're not impressive, but they're good enough. And that's really all you got to be right now, I guess. Yeah. Did you have the Bears leading the division after 11 weeks on your scorecard for the 2025 NFL season? If you're a Bears fan, you probably didn't. I know I didn't. Okay. Bryce Young having a career day as the Panthers complete the sweep of the Falcons. What a nightmare season it has been for Atlanta. Thought they'd be much better. They're not. Penix is done for the season. Drake London is hurt. I mean, Raheem Morris, you may be next to the unemployment line. After 2 seasons, it'd be harsh, but the Mayo sandwich lasted even shorter frame. It'll bring out all the race hustlers and SJWs. They'll probably have a point, but what we're seeing with this Atlanta team, I have to wonder how much patience Mr. Blank is going to have down there in the Big Peach. Okay, this is what I thought was interesting. I mean, Jacoby Brissett doing Jacoby Brissett kind of things in a backup role. Sets an NFL completion record with 47 last week. Completed 47 passes. However, the real story was Brock Purdy returning. So what? Mac Jones going 33 for 39. The offense didn't look this move, and George Kittle was back. And yeah, the talk might be about the Rams and the Seahawks, but the 49ers were saying, we all right. We just got a B-Day. And we're going to be problems for all y'all. Keep Brock Purdy healthy. The Commanders slide continues in Miami. I talked about that in Aftershocks and what a Bay of Pigs affair that was in Madrid. But hey, the folks at the Brennan Brow enjoyed themselves. The Cowboys and the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders. Don't look now, folks. If the Cowboys can beat the Eagles, this could get interesting. I mean, even with, the Pickens and, what did they miss? Curfew or something like that? CD Lamb and Pickens, and so they missed the first series. They could have missed the first quarter, and it wouldn't have mattered given the kind of effort you're seeing from the Raiders right now. Got to really feel for Max Cosby. But I'm really curious to see if the Cowboys can string together some wins here and make this interesting. Because we know if the Cowboys are involved, it's great for ratings. It's great for podcasts. Stephen A., everybody's got something to talk about when the Cowboys are actually, if not a threat, just relevant. Right. The Texans, who are on tonight, they get to 500. The Titans' season of misery continues. CJ's still out, which is like a very concern to be out this long. Find out Joe Mixon's done for the season. So real uphill climb. I mean, gee whiz, for the Titans who have had their way in that division the last 2 years, but now it's all about the Colts and the Jags. Boy, that Colts Chiefs game, how big is that coming up? All right, folks. On a dark evening, I see the lights from the trucks from the foundry just rolled up. You know, they contain those stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties. You know, they come in complimentary, regular and XL sizes. And these stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties. Yeah, I'm talking that. You know, the Wire episode. You get it. I always reference that. They get this award for things that happen in the week, or as we like to say, them being who they be. It's TMCA time. Coming at you for the first time in season 10. I'm going to give an XL to Cam Newton. I spoke about this on Aftershocks. His reaction to the Bethune-Cookman Grambling brawl and the whole Shedeur being sabotaged thing. Take a microphone away from that guy. I know everybody gets to talk in this age. Even I get to have a platform. But some folks do not need to have a microphone, let alone a camera, in front of them for the things that come out of their mouth. And he's one of them. Am I lying? I don't care if he went to a Super Bowl. Just because you went to a Super Bowl means the things that come out of your mouth make any sense. Bill Belichick, yeah, that look at misery. I have that look at misery too if I got dragged to a co-ed adult cheerleading contest. But you were cranky all week long. The way you behaved in the post-game handshake with the Wake Forest coach, come on, man. In the NFL, you can get away with that shit, but show a little more civility at that level, Bill. That's definitely worth an XL. I won't give him an XL. I'm going to give a regular to Mike McDaniel. What are you doing not taking the points in that situation? 2 or 7 or not, this was too easy. And if Marcus Mariota doesn't pee his pants and throw an interception, you lose that game. Seriously, was it an analytics thing? What the hell? Brah. I gotta give an XL to a dual Carter. I mean, part of it is because you wanted LT's jersey. You got dinged earlier for that. But now, sleeping through film study on a team that's not that good and missing the walkthrough. Yeah. Lucky you're a talent. No wonder the house needs to be fumigated up in Gotham. I'm going to give 3 XLs to the idiot fan who called out Draymond, trying to call him Angel Reese. Come on, man. Like I said on Aftershocks, Draymond, love him or hate him, is a decorated veteran. Decorated. I mean, he could make a 3. Come on. Angel Reese couldn't hit the Pacific Ocean standing on Santa Monica Pier. We all know this. Comparing him with me, bounds. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I'm going to give an XL to Dave Portnoy for calling Draymond soft for reacting to it. I'm like, come on, dude. Okay. If somebody called you Michelle Beadle, you wouldn't be happy. Jeez. Complimentaries and an XL for the Hall of Shame. For the simps on the internet making some chick with big boobs relevant because somebody had a screen capture of it at the Georgia-Texas game. Now she's the flavor of the week. It's going to crop up and probably get a good OnlyFans deal or some nonsense. Good grief. Hold on. Yeah. All you lonely boys in your mama and daddy's basement or doing whatever see these girls at these college football games like, oh my gosh, I wish she was my girlfriend. And next thing they know, they become internet stars. Ugh. This world is so messed up at times. Okay. I'm going to give 3 XLs to Jamar Chase. Not only for costing yourself a $500,000, but you, come on, man, spitting on somebody. I mean, like I said, that was like here, Nagasaki, Hiroshima stuff when we were kids. I can only imagine as an adult spitting on another adult, especially in a heated athletic contest. And then costing yourself a $500,000. Come on, man. Okay, lastly, complimentaries all around. We'll go a regular for the Hall of Shame for what I call the El Coyote Wackos. El Coyote is a famous Mexican restaurant in Hollywood. Been around since 1931. So it's got a connection to the Tate LaBianca murders, Charlie Manson and whatnot. And there's always been an urban legend that on that fateful night, August 8th, 1969, that Sharon, Jay, Abigail, and Vitek were there, even though the time frame always seemed weird to me, even when I was a kid. But watching people argue about this, whether they were there or not, and this happened in 1969, I follow social media, and thinking, why do you care whether or not they were there or not? It really can't be proven. And some of you wanting it to be so true, insulting people online about because they don't agree with your opinion is absolutely ludicrous. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. All right, folks, we've reached the finish line of episode 289, the season 10 premiere. Check out Aftershocks. See you in 6 to 8 days as always. Enjoy some adult beverages. Stay safe and sane. And avoid the bracelets. We'll talk to you soon.